What's going on, creators? Yeah, just want to get on here and bring everybody back to now. Appreciate y'all being here and vibing with me for a bit. Today I like to talk a little bit about catching patterns that start to emerge, and especially patterns that are triggering and causing reactivity, presenting resistance, and looking at these things differently. You at least moving in that direction. Recognizing everybody. The flow is just not to sit here and just worry about it. It's just trying to get into more of an embodying that peaceful state that you're trying to achieve through this means. It's like, oh, if I just had some material possession, then I can feel free. When actually, things work differently than what we've been taught. It's more about embodying that state first, that happiness, joy, that peace, freedom, all these types of energies. You embody that, and then it starts to reflect in your space, in your perspective, in actual material things too. It's really more reflective though of your state of consciousness. And so these things that happen where they're triggering or irritating or frustrating or difficult, not to sit there and like praise the difficulty and start to fall in love with like the suffering. But instead, accept that it's there, but let it go. That's not who you are anymore. It's like that was a part of the old man. That was part of the old identity. And once it becomes more and more brought to the surface, that's when you can either choose to forgive it, or maybe bury it again until deal with it again later when you're ready, I guess. But these things are not random, and they're not a coincidence. And so looking at everything as, is this functioning smoothly? Is there obvious problems? It's like a garden is a really good analogy, where it's like you can, plant vegetables, carrots, broccoli, cucumbers, everything like that. But then if you see other shit growing in there, it's like, that's obviously not what I was looking for. Or this is I just want this, I don't have to sit here and make up a story about it. It's just, and then move on and become more and more consciously aware that the present moment is when we feel things. And so if we're constantly on this roller coaster of drama and just, there might be some excitement to that. And if you're enjoying that ride, enjoy it. It's part of the flow of your life, just to do new things and experience new things and do things that charge you up and feel exciting. And sometimes maybe a situation might start to emerge where you start to feel guilt, and starting to recognize guilt as another flavor of fear is really helpful, because when your dreams start to become more and more your reality, and then you see your peers or your people that you're close with, you want their dreams to be coming true for them too. And there's almost like this weird kind of guilt that starts to, and that's what I experienced, at least. I'm not saying that's what everybody experiences, but like, you almost start looking back and then like feeling like bad that you're being blessed. It's like that your prayers have been answered. It's like, there's this weird kind of dynamic that can start to happen. It's something to not just just let that unconsciously continue to play out in this pattern, because what typically happens for me is I feel that, and then I just like there's resistance and I push it away. And so realizing that so much of the resistance is our attempt at pushing away love, and realizing more and more so that the old man, the old mentality was terrified of love for some reason. And there's like a worldly definition of what love actually is. But that's something you define. You define what love is, and you know exactly what it's not, because you start off in a state of separation and having an experience of fear. And knowing fear and becoming acquainted with it very familiarly. That's basically your old identity. You're walking, talking states of fear. And this downward spiral starts to happen as that manifests more and more. As you kind of descend into more and more fear. But that's just what you're not anymore. It's not. It's a decision you make now. I'm going to choose peace. I'm going to choose love instead. I'm choosing not to sit here just suffering. It's like, really get into that, it is finished, this is, I am new, and really embodying that. That's, I feel like, a big milestone and big things to start to unpack. But looking at these things that play out in patterns, especially when they're super triggering, and they might be triggering you into unconscious states. Maybe you spend the whole day into some anger or rage, or just, I don't know, just where you're attacking, things, people, yourself, in a lot of different ways. You want to have somebody pay, they need to suffer because of some injustice. All of these types of things, that it's just a perpetual cycle of that just intensifies more and more of that energy as you just embody that state more and more. But when you recognize that that's kind of what's happening, how there is nothing really separate going between your consciousness and now all of a sudden a lot of relation. It's like, why do I always got to be stable? It's like, because it's good to be stable. It's not good to be crazy and lashing out and attacking and draining other people's energy. That's what happens when you become unconscious. So it's definitely a benefit when you are stable and conscious, and not just for others, but also for yourself, because really we're all connected, and so what you're giving to others, you're really giving to yourself. And so trying to keep more of that perspective of oneness into difficult situations, like, why is this such a triggering event, or all that. I get that way with spiritual people, because like I've been actively more and more so just staying away from screens, just really being focused in my my little bubble of reality, and not looking for the answers out in what's Google have to say. It's eventually it's almost getting to a point with people where it's just like, what, I'll just ask Google, because you're just going to parrot whatever Google tells you. So it's like, okay, well, thanks, the Borg, the Google or whatever, Google Bob. But like, but you start to realize that the answer is within you, and your connection with God is the only thing that really matters. And looking at the source of love and joy and peace is being within you, that you can like tap into and feel that energy first. Not to sit there and judge yourself 24/7. It's like, oh, I'm not good enough, not good enough, not good enough. Because all of these programs and all these just weird ways of thinking that get put on you as like in childhood, into culture, into and it's not until you take a big step back and it's like, why do I even believe these things? And that's part of like the awakening, I'd say, process, is when you really start to question your paradigm, and especially when you notice the opposite is playing out. So it's like, well, my beliefs and assumptions are this way, but then that doesn't fit with what I'm observing in my actual reality. And so trying to make sense of what's going on around you is on some level important, but not to get caught up in the external reality either. Learn to, and that's the other part of it. It's like, stop hating the external reality, start to love it. I mean, look at all the birds, and, I was like walking across the street because my wife works across the street, and like, the cat was playing with the squirrel, just, and there's flowers blooming, it's springtime, it's blue sky, possible thunderstorm coming, which is intense. I like thunderstorms. Like, me and my brother, like, at one point, we storm chased a little bit, and trying to see like tornadoes and pretty aggressive weather. Like here in Indiana, there's like pretty common that, but at this, I think they've gotten real fucking antsy with these tornado warning alerts. Because like when I was a kid, like that shit was like, you better get into the basement. If they're actually pulling the trigger on a tornado warning, the shit is right down the street. So get to your basement. But now it's like, come on, it's like every time it's like a thunderstorm, we see rotation 30,000 feet in the atmosphere. It's like, what's going on at 50 feet above sea level or ground level? It's like, who cares what the fuck's going on up there? If like you're making me have to get everybody, the cats, into the storm area. and just wait this thing out. When I was a kid, that was intense. That was an intense thing. And there was like one time, go outside and it's tornado warning. I lived in a trailer for years. Basically like my childhood home was like a 2-story house with a basement. But there's some drama with that house, like being like the old they said like I think where a preacher lived, and there might have been, I don't even know if this is a real story anymore, but if it had funerals at the house at some point. I don't know if that was even real, or I've just kind of made that up. I don't know. But then it started, like, the house become more and more like haunted vibe, and it's just, I don't know. It's just kind of a strange, looking back at that. But like I don't even know why I'm like on this tangent anymore, but it just doesn't even matter. It's just getting back to staying focused on the present moment, and oh yeah, the tornadoes, but like getting into the present and finding joy, lighten up. I keep just constantly just lighten up, just stop taking this shit so seriously. It's like, that's like really what I want at this point. I mean, because it feels like I don't have a lot in my space, is because there's like, it feels like a lot of dramatic energy, and just then the insanity, and some half the people kind of just behaving erratically, and but it has been like this. I mean, this isn't new. This is more visible. But the odd behavior in people, just, that's been going on. That's been going on for a long time. And so, not to get hung up on that either, and sitting there and start pointing it's all playing out in a way that God's having it play out for whatever reason, and to start to love it, and start, learning to have fun again. Being just happy to be alive. There's been such a progression, where you just go through these dark times, especially if you're doing a lot of suffering, and you're just like, you know what? Fuck this shit. It's like, and you just get to so much of that, where then it's like, I'm tired of being afraid of this. And it's like you start challenging it, and it's like you start having pretty intense experiences where it's like, facing that fear of death, and it's just like, how long do I spend the now with this looming thing, and then when maybe the body starts to start doing, it's like getting that physical resistance then starting to present, and just really facing these fears with a new kind of faith, where it's like, I've recognized the pattern, so why do I feel guilty instead of just embracing feeling good right now? Being happy with the life I have now. Being thankful for it, and watching it just grow, and like trying to share that with others that will actually hear it and apply it and do it. Because this is for everybody to do, and that's the frustrating end of it, and that's where a lot of that maybe guilt kind of stems from it, because it's like it just requires your faith in a different direction, and it's like so much of the downward spiral is your own, these own just made up stories that we tell ourselves. it's so crazy, and then this, like, then you fight staying stable, and you resist love. When you really are being kind of observant of your patterns, and these are just things that kind of present themselves, along the way, looking at everything as flowing out perfectly, and connecting with these moments of thankfulness, gratitude, and not to let guilt or any of these types of triggers that, when on the inside something feels good, but then whatever's going on out here is now causing some sort of resistance, or just even looking at you can redefine how you interpret things, events, life things that have happened, so you can reason on these with this different adult brain. It's like, stop carrying in this childhood trauma. So much of like the childhood story I'm kind of like reminiscing about. It's like, why am I focused on just like some key fucked up areas when most of it was peaceful, and not totally toxic all the time. There's if you look at it a certain way, yeah, it could be that way, definitely. But then at the other end of it is like, well, you know, I'm like a result of that. So, and stop just sitting here just feeling like a broken toy. And part of that is letting these things come, and not sitting there trying to control everything. Trusting infinite intelligence is unfolding it perfectly, better than I could even imagine or dream of. For me and for everybody else, it's natural. You're seeing a reflection. Could you imagine how it would be like if you lived in a world where you were in a body, but there was no such thing as mirrors, and there's no way to ever look at yourself, and someone asks you, what do you think you look like? If you've never seen a mirror, you wouldn't. It would be super surreal, and at the same time, that's kind of what we're doing. We're kind of mirroring these different things to each other. We're growing and expanding. We're doing all these different things, and I think I'm going to bounce. I just realized how late it's getting. But thanks everybody. I'm going on some tangents too, and so thanks everybody for listening, and have a good rest of your now, and God bless.